Imagine this. You are a bird, and you're at the age where you want to leave the nest and meet your birdie wife and create a nice, sturdy nest. So you go looking out, you go look for a pre-built nest. But the worm rate for a pre-built nest is pretty high, I will admit. So, and in the nest you will find that are pre-built, they're going to cost you a lot of worms, maybe some fish too. So, the birds, they think, well, I'll just go build my own house. Well, they can't. Because the bird government, they made the sticks and twigs cost a lot of fish and worms. So that's not an option. Now, hypothetically saying, you're a big bird. You got worms, you got fish, you got everything. But now, you gotta find a nice branch to build your nest on. But wait, you can't. Because there are no bird workers to build these houses. Now, the problem with the problem with the birds, we humans face too, you see. We are short on workers, we're short on lumber, we're short on houses, we're short on materials. And the problem that you guys will all face, according to my survey, is 50% of you are either looking for a house now or will be in the near future. And I know for me personally, I've been looking for some nice houses for the past 2 years. But every house I go to is either too expensive, bought by some rich person, or they're just too run down and need a lot of work. So now that you understand a little bit about my topic, which is the housing crisis, I will now talk about how supply and demand skyrocketed prices, how COVID shut down the country and made houses a lot of money, and how tiny homes and multi-family homes can fix our problems. Okay, so I'll start off with the problem, which is supply and demand. Supply and demand is the problem because it doesn't wait for anyone. Every year there are millions of people that leave their house and want to start their own family. So this means every passing year the demand for houses rises. And as the demand rises, the supply dwindles. And since no houses were being built during COVID, the supply was dwindling very fast. And according to an article written by CNN, last updated March 8th, 2023, the United States is not building enough homes to account for the number of people setting up their own households. Now, you may also think, now why, like the birds, why don't they just build their own houses? Well, it's the same problem. Due to the demand for materials for houses, the prices skyrocketed and poor people like us cannot afford the materials to build these houses. Now, for the rich people, they had the land, they had the money to build these houses, but the problem they lacked is they didn't have workers to build these houses. In a study conducted by Associated Builders and Contractors to see how many workers they needed to fill unfilled spots, they found that we would need nearly 590,000 new workers above the normal rate to fill those spots. Okay, now that you know how supply and demand drove the prices of houses up, I will not talk about how supply and demand affected houses. I will now break down how COVID affected the housing crisis into raw material costs, labor shortage, and then a quick summary of its overall impact. During COVID, people did not leave their homes, meaning all the room in their houses was being used up. And whether for work, school, or for new hobbies they picked up. And in some cases, mainly bigger families, the room was all used up and they didn't have enough room. So they either had to make an addition or straight up just move houses. And in some cases, the people that had a lot of money from these COVID checks that they were giving out willy-nilly, they made additions because they can. Now, there were two types of people that made additions. There was the people that got willy-nilly checks from Joe Biden, or there was people that didn't have enough room and they just had to make room for their children. So how did this affect material cost? Well, now that thousands of people are creating additions, the demand for materials went up, and the supply of the materials increased this demand. Over COVID, demand kept rising because, as I said, people grow up and create bigger families, meaning demand for houses kept rising. And on the other hand, the supply kept shrinking because America was shut down and there was no workers to acquire more materials. Now, how did COVID cause a shortage of workers? I'll start off with some numbers. According to an article published July 6, 2020, written by the World Economic Forum, they talk about all the available workers above the age of 16 that are not inmates or on active duty for the military was, in July 2020, was 260 million. And out of those 260 million, only 142 of them were employed. That's just over 50% of America being employed. So now that you know that just under half of the country was unemployed, I will tell you what that means. It means that there was a small number of workers gathering lumber, there was a small amount of workers shipping and selling the materials, and there was just a small amount of workers to build these houses. So now I'll just give you a quick summary of COVID's effects. COVID shut down the country, not many people were working, people were stuck in their houses and needed more room, so they built additions or moved. Them doing this raised the prices of materials, and since there were no workers to get more materials, the prices kept going up. Alright, so that was a quick summary of COVID. Now I'll go into some solutions. The solutions that I will talk about are tiny homes and multifamily homes. I will start off with tiny homes. Tiny homes, as the name implies, are tiny homes. They have all the same functions as a normal home, but they're just downsized. Tiny homes are not only smaller than normal homes, they cost a fraction of the price a normal house would, use fewer materials to build, and according to an article written May 1st, 2022 by SSRM, talking about tiny homes, basically says, if you build and design tiny home villages properly, they are very affordable housing, they efficiently add houses to the market, and it gives plenty of opportunities for people to buy houses. The next solution is multifamily homes. Multifamily homes is a normal home split up into four segments for living. These homes are just like tiny homes, but there are two main differences. The first difference is you get no personal yard, and the second difference is it costs the same amount of materials as a normal house, but to offset the cost, four families can live in it. Now that you know a little bit more about the housing crisis, you can now see that the problem is supply and demand, the cause is COVID, and two solutions are tiny homes and multifamily homes. The end.